let me welcome you back once again to another episode of the podcast of my blog, or I guess now podcast of the Spirit Channel. I am your host, as always, the Zenith, and this is a brand new episode in which I want to flesh out and talk about a topic and concept that is extremely, if not fundamental, in my life, which is the concept of love. I have begun to talk a lot about this on my blog, and I want to flesh this concept out more and really, hopefully, get you, the listener, to perhaps be in my shoes to really understand what it is when I talk about this connection to love. Let me just first preface all this by saying that I am certainly no different from any one of you listening to this here. I am not special. I am not unique in any way. From anyone else who considers themselves spiritual, for anyone else who has a spiritual ability or gift in any way, even for anyone who has absolutely no experience in this, or does not feel that they have anything to offer the world in regards to a spiritual perspective or outlook in life. Believe me that I am absolutely no different from the rest of you, because all of us are all special, all of us are all unique, and all of us are all loved in so many ways that we could not possibly begin to understand the unfathomable mysteries of unconditional love. You may feel that my claims to, well, I don't claim to have any fame, but my claims in regards to perhaps the things that I do or claim to do, excuse me, or the just the general writings on my blog or these podcast episodes come from someone with an ego or an attitude about themselves, or a high opinion about themselves, or perhaps they're making false assertions. This too is extremely acceptable to me. I perfectly understand how you may feel, where you may be coming from, and I simply love you anyway, as I love each and every other person, and I strive to understand more and more of this love in each and every way, every day. And I guess when you're not feeling this love in the moment, you can feel that you're missing something, that you've lost something, but I guess it's simply because you're operating at such a high frequency, an altered state of consciousness, that when you return to perhaps what we may consider a normal state of everyday consciousness, it can really feel that you're losing your way. But also, I think that's everything that I want to say. So to talk about this love, I've written about love. I've written about seeking and finding love in the moment. Talking about feeling love. Talking about walking a path of love. I consider myself to what I call walk the path of the open heart, or seek the path of the open heart. And just like I've written about in my about section in my blog, I train, or I'm developing my psychic abilities. I developing my various forms of mediumship, which is vocal mediumship, which is, I guess, the most widely recognized form of mediumship, where you bring messages from those in the non-physical, those who have passed into the spirit world. my healing mediumship, in which I channel the healing energies from what we consider spirit, from the higher dimensions, the higher densities, from the very creator itself. All is one ultimately. So therefore, I'm quite right to say that all of this comes directly from the source, or to be a vocal channeler, to convey conversations and messages from guides from the higher self, or to let them take the use of my vocal cords and physical body to convey their own messages. But underpinning all this here, along with other spiritual abilities, that's all very great. It's all very nice. But I have met so many people who are psychics, who are have a form of mediumship, who consider themselves spiritual people, but they still fall back on human traits. They're still judgmental. They are still have anger, envy, wrath about them, still subject to human emotions, and whose seeking of deeper spiritual truths perhaps just doesn't continue on past their abilities that they develop. So for me, beyond all of this here, beyond all of these fantastical, wonderful sounding abilities, and I guess they are, because you are connecting with beings in a non-physical world, in a non-physical reality, and bringing proof back that there is an existence after this life, that people can be cured of conditions, although that I would say is a more perhaps advanced form, but certainly to help with people's mental health, which is a massive issue, simply by laying your hands on them, or simply sending thought forms of healing towards them, or to have your voice changed to bring through a conversation or words, and to be in a state of consciousness that is not your own. These are obviously very important and very beautiful abilities, but what I have found, what I've discovered that underpins all of this here, and is more important than all of this here, is the concept of love. We in our culture, we consider love to be a wishy-washy word, a word of no substance, a word that is not very masculine. We consider it to be a very feminine thing. We consider it to be a weak word, a word without much strength. We consider it a concept, if we're not in love, or perhaps too egotistic about it, that we kind of mock it, we kind of shun it, we kind of mock those people who openly display love and openly perhaps wear their heart on their sleeves. As I said, it's associated with a feminine trait, and as we realize in our culture that we consider femininity and those of the feminine aspects to be the weaker side of us, and certainly feminine aspects and feminine deities, which have been worshipped for thousands of years, have been usurped and discarded by patriarchy in our cultures. But Thankfully now we're seeing a much more return of these balancing of energies. But anyway, I'm getting off the subject here. Yeah, but it's my discovery that, and I guess just at first it was simply words. It was okay, right? I understand that, but I didn't feel it. It was this understanding that what we call love is simply a word to describe a concept that we cannot fully grasp in our human culture or human language. It goes way, way beyond what we think it actually is. It goes way beyond what we consider to be a concept that is a force or attraction between two people. It is something that can be taken and be expanded to include not only ones who we are physically or emotionally attracted to or have love for friends, relatives, and family members, but to also feel love for strangers, to feel love for society, to feel love for a entire gender type, to feel love for an entire racial type, to feel love for an entire planetary population, to feel love for the entire of creation itself, to try to feel love for those people who have wronged us, who have insulted us, who have caused us grief, caused us misery, to feel love for those negative forces, those beings who have shunned the light, who try to derail us, try to rack our train of thought, who seek to stop us seeking the light and befuddle us and make us feel lower based emotions like shame, guilt, anger. So to even try to find love for this here. But again, love itself is not just this idea that you should find affection, you should find compassion, you should find forgiveness in your heart for all of these things. Yes, it does mean that, but it goes beyond this again. Love is what has been described, and what I have come to realize is a force of nature. It is an invisible force in nature that is constantly in effect at all times, at all places, in all situations, in all events, at all times. And we need only to take a short pause in our actions to consider this, to consider that love can be found anywhere in any situation. You only have to sit and think about it. You only have to try and perhaps feel it or even radiate it out, to try and give love out like you are a sun itself, and that you are shining your rays out upon the world, upon the solar system. So it is a force, and we may say, or you may say, well, how is it a force? How I can't see it, I can't feel it. Well, much like air or gas, some of the air you can't see, although you can feel it. There are gases out there that are invisible. They do not smell. They are not perceivable to our five senses. When we think of our radio signals, our Wi-Fi signals, we don't see them. We don't perceive them. We cannot pick them up with our five physical senses. But we know they're there. We know that they exist. We know that they are in creation. They are manifest. So it is perhaps just our lack of understanding, our lack of awareness about these things, that we have not reached a state of being, a state of consciousness, a state of perhaps, I hate to use the term scientific, but a measurement, a way of understanding this. In the past, back even before Tesla's day, if you had have talked to someone about radio waves or wireless fidelity signals, then they would have thought that you were mad. And so it's the same with love. One day we will be able to perceive and see and measure this force that we call love. It is one of the primal forces of nature. It is the word of the Creator. It is the word that made flesh. I think that's the term. It is the logos. The Greek word for love is logos. And what has been communicated by the law of one, when the Creator decided to know itself, it formed the logos. So the logos formed from the will of the Creator, from the will and desire of wanting to know itself. It formed what was described as the logos, these entities or forces of creation that created the material universe or material universes, and therefore providing an experience for the Creator to know itself through creation and all of the creations within the universe. So it is a primal force of nature. It is a force of the Creator. It is light. It is the love made manifest in the physical world as light. And so without any light, there would be complete darkness. We would not be able to see anything. And so this light is all around us. It's not just the light from the sun, but this light provides clarity. It provides everything that we see. It is the photon, in scientific terms, that provides the building blocks of all of creation. It is ultimately everything. It is the physical manifestation of this love. So when we look at love in this regard, we can begin to understand its importance. So to live a life based upon love is to try to grasp that concept of what love actually is. And yes, it is obviously an attraction, a desire to see everyone as equals, to love them as you would love your partner, your wife, your husband, your son, your daughter, your grandchildren, your parents, your relatives. At the end of the day, to love everyone, because every single one is the same. Every single one is a part of this creation, an equal part of this creation. Everyone is a part of the Creator, and so everyone is ultimately the same one. So you would not hate or dislike, your own self. But the way, let me just say how I came across feeling this love, and I've discovered this love a few times in my life, and the first time was during my awakening, when I didn't know what was happening and I didn't understand the emotions that I was feeling, and I didn't understand what was coming over me, until I was told it was unconditional love, and it's a concept that we are not familiar with on our human existence, because the love that we show each other is finite. Our love comes with conditions. Our love comes with the reciprocation or the return of love from another, and if that other withholds their love, then the love that we manifest, or the love that we emit towards that person, can become conditional. Our love becomes conditional when another that we show love to lets us down or disappoints us in some way. And our love does not extend generally to people we've never met, or those who we term opposites of an opposite creed, an opposite culture, an opposite racial section, of an opposite belief. So this is how it's completely different from unconditional love. And this unconditional love still continues, even if we try to shut ourselves off from it, even if we try to rebel against it, even if we try to reject it or scorn it, or whatever. It still continues. So this is the difference between the love that we think is love and the love that truly is. When I started down this path of seeking love, I started down the path of seeking love in the minute, or the love in the moment, and trying to see everyone ultimately as the creator, as God, as source, simply either consciously aware that they were some part of the source, or completely unconsciously of it. But ultimately all part of the source, all equal, all different aspects of myself. I also try to project love to those who I was having a conversation with. So whilst I was listening to them and to other people talking to me, mentally I would take a step back and try to project love on them, try to project light and love, and in that way raise their consciousness and raise the planetary consciousness. And so after a while of doing this here, a strange thing happened. I woke up one morning, and again, like a lot of these things, it wasn't waking up fully. It's that kind of twilight state between not fully asleep, so that you're not dreaming, but sort of having a very overactive imagination, almost like a daydream, but a sleep dream, but not a fully proper dream, in which you're too tired to wake up fully, to come to a full conscious realization. And in my head, I was listening to or replaying the haunting theme of Judy Christie's Twin Peaks theme, Falling, it's called. And at the crescendo, the height of the song, it was almost like there was waves of light and energy that were shooting up in my consciousness, in my mind. And I just felt this over incredible waves of love within me. Later on that day, I think it was later on that day, I was going about my business, driving, and I was thinking about this love, and it was a consciousness change, it was a download, it was an upgrade, call it what you will, but suddenly I understood what this love meant. And I began to listen and remember songs that talked about love. And one that came to me straight away was the song from Notting Hill, the film Notting Hill, which is played by a band called Wet Wet Wet, called Love Is All Around. And the lyrics of that go, I feel it in my fingers, I feel it in my toes, the love is all around, or so the story goes. I think that's the lyrics. And it began just then to make sense to me. Yes, love is all around, it's ever present, it's an invisible force. It's in my, I can feel it in my fingers, I can feel it in my toes. I can actually feel this power of love, and it is beautiful, it is amazing, it is overwhelming. And it was a state of consciousness, it was a shift in consciousness, it was an upgrade, it was a download, whatever you want to call it, but it was truly beautiful. And from then I began to seek out other songs that inspired me about love. And then I think the next one that came to me was that classic that I'm sure most people will be aware of, which is called, it is called, give me 1 second here. Where are you? It is That Love Is in the Air by John Paul Young. And that is the one that goes, love is in the air, every sight and every sound. Love is in the air every time I look around, and so on and so on. And again, once again, the lyrics just started to make sense to me. Love is in the air, it's in the very air, it's all around every time I look around. In the birds, in the trees, whatever way the lyrics go, it just once again made sense to me. I began to understand how love affects us every day, how much of a role it plays, how much of a primal force it is in creation. And it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. And therefore it set me down this path of trying to hold that vibration. Now, I couldn't hold that vibration constantly. This is a world of interruptions, of distractions, of catalysts. And so it's impossible to hold that in your heart constantly 24/7. And again, this is what I'm talking about, where you have dips in this altered state of consciousness, where you begin to think that something's wrong, that you're not living a spiritual life anymore, that you've faltered in your thing. But it's simply because you have returned to a normal state of consciousness that most people on the planet today are living, and think that this is a normal sort of way to live. It's sort of simply normal. It's an unconscious way of living. So since then, I have endeavored to try to become consciously aware of this love in the moment and seeking love every single day, to trying to understand more and more of this. It's like pulling a rope towards you, which you know that there's a massive presence type of thing at the end, and you're constantly pulling at it, and you never seem to get to the end, even though you seem to get a little bit further along in your path. And the thing about it is that the strange thing is that these songs that I started singing, also Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is, another fantastic song. And I always hated those songs. I always hated them. I thought they were icky. I thought they were soppy. I thought they were weak. I thought they were for overly emotional people. And now the tables have been turned on its head, where I completely understand, perhaps even deeper in many ways, than anyone who perhaps would have sung those songs before, simply thinking about a loved one, or just being in love. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing when you can reach those heights, when you can feel that love just pour right through you, transform you, and lift you to this state of consciousness where you recognize that everyone around you is just not operating at this state of consciousness. And if you could only communicate that to them, if they could only understand where you were coming from, then they too would operate at this high frequency. But as much as you want to help people, as much as you want them to see and feel the truth of reality, you simply can't, because everybody's on their own spiritual path. Everybody has come into this life, into this incarnation with their own lessons to learn. And this is also to do with free will. You can't impinge on people's free will. And because they're not ready for it. They're not ready for it. They have to come to you. They have to want to know about something like this. They have to want to know more about this. Yeah, you may drop seeds. You can become a gardener. You know, you can even say to people, what's your job role? Well, I'm a gardener. Oh, well, yeah, I plant seeds. You have these cryptic clues like that. And if they're interested in this, then they'll come back and they'll ask you more about it. I plant seeds of love, whatever you want to say. But you can't just spill this out, because it's something that has to be experienced. It's not something that, although I'm talking about it, really, I'm only talking about it. You need to experience this for yourself. You need to want to know. And I think if you consciously set down this path of trying to seek love in a moment, trying to project love, trying to see everyone and feel love for everyone, then, and ask, most importantly, ask those in the higher dimensions, ask those that we have termed angels, ask your own guides, ask your own higher self to awaken you to the power of love. You'll surely be granted it. Also, on top of that, there, the changes that we see coming to planet Earth, these great shifts, or the great shift, the great awakening, the great spiritual age that we're now entering, what some call 5D, what the Confederation sources call the fourth density, is a density of love. It is about understanding love in deeper and deeper ways, in leading a love-based life. And I guess for me is that this is what truly resonates with me. I know a lot of people will talk about 5D and, you know, that's going to be great, and, you know, this here and all the rest of it, but a lot of the people that I speak to, a lot of the spiritual people that I speak to who talk about this as if it's for everyone, as if everyone's going to experience this here, and we're going to get rid of all the evil, nasty people. They're all going to be hanged and, you know, court-martialed and crucified, and that just does not resonate with me. In a path of love, how can you talk about a great new spiritual age that's going to come, a age in which, you know, nirvana pretty much is going to come to planet Earth, without having doing the work on yourself, without having realized that even if there are negative people on the planet, even if there are a cabal, an Illuminati, a deep state, that you cannot feel love in your heart for these people, that you cannot simply wish them well, but thank them for their service, thank them for the opportunity that they have provided in order for you to awaken to this, and say that you're no longer needed now, and you still feel that malice in your heart, and realize that this state of being, this state of consciousness, is not for everyone. Confederation sources, and by that I mean that well, I'll talk about that more in future episodes, but I guess very briefly, teams of bands of what we would call soul groups, and bands of those and groups of those in the higher non-physical realms who work together to form a confederation in order to help planets like ours and planetary populations make the jump into the next stage of spiritual evolution, much in the way the United Nations or a non-warfaring body who have the best interests of people at heart, may work together. So these confederation sources constantly, and I've mentioned that when it comes to this transition, that not everyone is going to make it. It's only going to be a small percentage of people, and it's sad. It is really, really quite sad because, of course, if you're a compassionate, loving person who sees the goodness in everyone and recognizes that most people are just simply asleep, then why wouldn't you want everyone, or why wouldn't you want the majority of people to share this experience? But as they said, they've said that due to a number of factors, that most people are still asleep. Most people are not leading a conscious thought-based life, and so therefore are simply caught up in the physical, caught up in all things physical, and give no higher thought form to anything outside of that, or have not made that conscious decision to live a life of service to others. Ra calls this the Sinkhole of Indifference. And what was meant by that there was that most people will carry out a positive action. They will give someone a smile. They will have a pleasant word for another. They will hug someone. They will do a chore for someone. They will keep a lift open. They will keep a door open for someone. They will help someone cross the road. They will take in messages for someone. They will do someone else a kind turn. But yet in the same breath, or in the same day, or in the next day, they will curse someone up and down for cutting them off in traffic, for a perceived rude gesture, for perhaps being bumped into, for earning more money than them, for whatever else. So for every positive action they take, they offset it by a negative action. So therefore, they make no progress whatsoever, and so simply falls further and further down into the sinkhole. And again, on top of that, people are indifferent. People are completely indifferent to anything like this. They're don't care, not interested. The football's on, soap operas are on. Some other sport is on. Oh, I want to sit on my phone, social media all day. And so I guess, without veering off topic, when great truths are revealed in this world, trying to think of massive, perhaps when wars and famine have been going on, people are largely indifferent to it. Yes, there is a moral outcry, there's a public outcry, and perhaps there are protests of hundreds of thousands of people, but really in some of the larger cities in the world, it only represents a small fraction of the population who feel emotional enough about these negative events that they decide to take action about it. Most people just go, oh, that's a terrible thing, but there's nothing that I can do to change it. Or what was the other thing I was going to say there? When the likes of perhaps a whistleblower comes out and reveals extreme corruption or extreme wrongdoing in the world. I'm thinking of Edward Snowden, who courageously revealed to the world how the NSA was spying on everyone, collecting illegal phone records, and had to flee his home country, leave behind his girlfriend, leave behind his family, and ended up in Russia, living in Russia. People were just indifferent to this, revealing that obviously, as they said, the Five Eyes, the 5 English-speaking countries in the world: United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, perhaps along with the help of Israel, had been collecting massive data and spying on foreign diplomats and politicians and the heads of state, and obviously, sharing information on their own countries, or their own countries' populations with each other. And yet people were indifferent to this. We think of all the political prisoners who have been locked up for various reasons, for standing up for truth, for democracy, for all of the things, and their lives have been ruined. They've been jailed, they've been tortured, they've been beaten, and yet people remain indifferent to this. People would prefer to watch entertainment to fill their day, or make their day full of I don't want to say the word nonsense, but certainly to the banal things in life, the things that don't matter, social media, television, whatever the case may be. And so I think this is what also Ra means by the sinkhole of indifference, is that people are indifferent to a lot of this stuff. They're not spiritually seeking. And so this is where I personally feel that a lot of the spiritual community who believe and think that this 5D reality, that this new dimension for Earth is going to manifest in one heartbeat, and that there'll be automatic justice and things will be right, and wrongs will be righted, and we're all going to get this, is just, for me, is inaccurate. And again, once again, it's quite sad, but ultimately I think that real change happens in the world. And again, these are perhaps the same people who thought Donald Trump, the American president, was going to right wrongs, was going to fix the entire world, who was working with Q to arrest all the members of the deep state, and all these things would be revealed. And when that didn't transpire, there's been various dates mentioned, oh, he's coming back here, this is being happened, and all the rest of it. And once again, it hasn't transpired, and yet they're still talking about it. They're still talking about this. Now, that's not to say that I'm right about this and they are wrong. This could still happen. But the point I'm making is that people are looking for a savior. People are looking to put their power, to put their hope in one person, like this one person is going to transform the world. Like he's the second coming of Buddha, of Muhammad, of Jesus Christ, of Krishna, all wrapped up in one. What that does is it takes responsibility away from them. It takes responsibility away from their own personal power. That they feel that they don't have to do anything in the world, that they don't have to do any inner work on themselves. But my opinion is that it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous to put your faith and your power into a so-called prophet, a so-called savior of humanity. I don't think that's going to happen. Real change comes from within. The best that you can do is change yourself, because when you change yourself and you work on yourself and you start becoming the best version of yourself and vibrate to the highest frequency that you can, then others notice that about you. Others wonder what it is that you have changed. They can't quite put their finger on it, but they sense it within you. They sense the light radiating from you, and they want that too. They perhaps will ask you what you're doing, and you can inspire other people then to change themselves. And so for me, that's how real change comes about, and that comes through this concept, this grasp, this understanding that beyond any spiritual abilities you may have is this radiation and understanding and development of the concept of love. And so I hope in this very long podcast that I have given you enough food for thought and given you enough insight into how important this idea of what we call love is, and how to bring this into your life and how to manifest it into your life, as in the law of attraction. For me, as I mentioned, this is the true law of attraction. It's not to try and manifest finite concepts like money, like good looks, like a better physical body, like physical objects like a house, a car, for humor or whatever the case may be. But it's this attraction of this power, this force of nature, this creative force that we call love, which is the building block of reality, is to manifest more of that into your life. And so I hope that this podcast has made some sense. It has given you a grasp and it has resonated with you to perhaps try out this technique of seeking love in each and every moment, seeing all as equal, all as yourself, a reflection of yourself, and all as an equal part of the Creator. And with that, I'm going to thank you once again, dear listener, for tuning in, for listening to my podcast. I hope that you will become a subscriber, that you will become a regular listener. Your thoughts on this here would be much appreciated. It lets me know that I'm not on my own in this. It lets me know that there are other people out there who are like me. And it gives me inspiration, and it gives me more determination to continue on recording these podcasts, and let me know that what I'm doing is important to you, the listener, because this is a symbiotic relationship. I cannot do this without you, and I hope that you enjoy listening to me as much as I enjoy hearing your feedback and letting me know that there are others like me out there, or certainly others who have been inspired by this. So this is your host, the Zenith, for another episode of the Spirit Channel podcast, signing out with much light, much love, and I'll see you next time.